Hey, welcome to my channel. This is Ferocious Education. This is Ed. Today I'm going to be going through some of my due diligence process. First, I'd like to go through the technical analysis and then go towards my opinion. Now, today we're looking at Ideanomics. It's a Chinese company based in China. It works in the electrical vehicle fields and industries. Now, today what I'm going to be looking at is a little bit of what's the next possible movement for this stock. Now, I look at a stock as a book, and these indicators usually give me a little bit of cliff notes that kind of give me a little bit of a view into psychology of the traders that are currently existing in the market. Now, we can see on the last day, we've seen a bit of a spike in the volume, so that means there has been a little bit of distribution between the older investors and new investors. So this can be a game changer. Now, the main technical analysis I do is usually 1 month, 1 day. I've blocked some of the stuff here for account information for security purposes, but all the needed information should be seen here. Now, some of the indicators that I love to have is the 200 SMA, which kind of gives me a little bit of an average towards what I consider as expensive or a good price stock. And then looking at forward to the 10 SMA and 30 EMA. These are different averages. I can put links down below for what they mean. So the 10 SMA usually is a good indicator when the 10 SMA is above the 30 EMA, and that usually gives me a little bit of an overview into what the direction of the stock. So what does this tell me? Well, if you look closer to what the stock actually is showing, all averages are declining downwards. Now we do see here few reds and then one green, one red, one green. So this has been a good period here where you can kind of get scalpings or hold it for a short term, but then the later on period is red, green, red, multiple reds and greens. So every stock has this kind of pattern where it sees either one green day, one red day, or a mix of them, and it's easy to identify. So if we look over here, we can see it basically has been a downtrend, except for this period between 18 March and around 31st March. Now there's a lot of indicators here. I'll try to go through them in a bit. But you can see here one of the biggest ones is the MACD, and that's one of the easiest ones to read. The MACD with histogram can show you where the movement is. So around 19th of March, the histogram started to climb around twice as large as the day before or so, and then it continues to climb up. As it climbs up, this shows a good indicator of strength, and we can see here that it has already, would say, 2 times or 3 times higher than the day before in the last day. That's a good indicator. And if you look at the volumes here for the last 3 months, this is the largest volume it has seen in 3 months. If we're looking at 6 months, we can tell that it is as well. So it looks like this is on Friday was the largest it has seen. Now that's a good indicator. Now looking into technical analysis, that might be a little bit difficult when looking at stuff where like the William R percent R, where it can tell you, well, it's clearly an overbought stock. Well, what does an overbought stock mean? Well, it means that it might actually see a reversal. So look over here. Here's an overbought stock. It was green that day, and then it saw a red day. Overbought can usually just tell you whether a pullback is coming, not whether you're going to see a tanking. And that's very important for people to realize. So you can see here on the 18th of May, for instance, it saw a green day, but it was more around the neutral side going to the overbought side, and it saw a pullback. And then it became a bit more oversold. So when I'm saying oversold or overbought, think about it in terms of just the literal English meanings. If a stock is overbought, that means that you can expect a lot more people to sell, and that brings the price down. Now looking into a bit of the IDEX indicator, this one doesn't tell us much because as you can see, it's 1197, which is considered sloppy, but since I can see a bit of a downtrend, but there's a bit of green and a high volume, that doesn't tell me much. Now, looking into 3 months, 1 day, you're going to see around here that the ADX was very strong. I would consider between 25 and 45 is my nice range for ADX. And this just tells me what the inflow is. And you can see here on the unbalanced volume, it has been positive, which means it has been seeing more buyers than sellers. Now, what we're looking at on the last day, that actually just hit again. And as you can see, it hit way higher than the highest I've seen it since 31st of March. So that's a good indicator. Now, going over into momentum, this just usually tells me what the strength of the movement is. But since the momentum is very sloppy for a while now, that doesn't really tell me much. So there's some information that I can see reliability in at times, and others where it just is meaningless for me. Now, looking into the current MACD with histogram, a rule of thumb is blue above red for 12, 26, and 9 is amazing. Or in general, the blue indicator for the MACD is when it's above the signal line, it's a good sign. And what that shows is, once it's positive, it has the high tendency to continue to be positive. For instance, you don't see it flip halfway through, but once it starts decreasing, that could be your warning sign. And that can be used for day trading as well and short-term trading. So for instance, if I go on to, let's say, a 1 day, 1 hour histogram, you can see that in this period over here, it kind of signaled that the price will go a little bit lower. Now, this is intraday, so this is only if you're scalping, you can actually try to, secure your gain and get out. But if you're looking into for higher gains and not scalping, then you might have to just increase your histogram, right? So let's look at a 5-day, 1 hour. Sometimes when the stock is not seeing a lot of movement, for a longer period of time, you're not going to find any strength in the histogram. But if you were to look at, let's say, a 1 month, 1 hour histogram, you're going to be able to see what the movements are. So around this period here on this day, you can see that there's a strong reversal from positive to negative, and that right away gave you a hint of a red day. And you can see that in fact did happen. The IDEX as well is a bit strong when you will try to confirm things out, but it's not very reliable. As any indicator here, you can't just use one and run with it. You're going to lose a lot of money that way. Now, what I like to prefer to add into my charts is pivots, resistors, and supports, resistance and supports. Think about a stock being at a certain level. It has a ceiling and it has a floor. If it breaks the floor, it drops to the bottom level, and it thus oscillates between these two levels. Now, looking into this chart here, and I see that it actually ran in the aftermarket, you can set to see what the previous supports and resistance are. It's a bit difficult to see that the current supports and resistance have little reliability. And why am I saying that? If you were to look into early May, so that's about a month ago, you can see that the stock has crossed that price in the extended market, but it has dropped since then. So for a longer period of time, the support or resistance can get very tricky. Looking into what we're seeing right now, we can see that the highest point it has reached in the last 3 months is 135, and it has seen the last movement was positive. I can start looking into what the current resistance would be. Again, it's small reliability, but I would say probably around 0.50, right? And it actually holds it here. This is a current support. Support becomes a resistance if it's coming in from the bottom. And we can say it's around 59. So let's look at stock price. All right, so the next resistance is 0.59, and you can see that it almost hit it here and it bounced back a little. Now, for people who doesn't know how to read candlesticks, the lines here just basically show you what the highest price is and the lowest price is for that single period of time, and the current the last price is what indicates that box here, and it shows you basically a tug war, what I call it, between the buyers and sellers. That's very interesting. Going over the Fibonacci retracement, it's one of my favorite things to do, but unfortunately for this period here, it's a little bit harder to do. So what I'm gonna try to do is I'm gonna try to use a 3 months one on 135 and see if that works. But as you can see, last price is 0.0277. The Fibonacci retracement is going to be off low significance, but nonetheless, I'm going to draw it just to show you what I'm talking about. Here it is. You can see here that, so what a Fibonacci retracement is, it's Fibonacci numbers is a mathematical sequences that I found very helpful to kind of confirm supports or resistance and their strengths. So in this case, the current Fibonacci retracements that are currently close to it is 0.54 and 0.71. Now, if you remember, I said that the current resistance it's looking towards is 0.59. So this doesn't tell me much, but it tells me that the price would probably still be above 0.50 for a while, since 0.54 is retracement. But this has low reliability for this length of time. So looking again into what our last 1 day action is, let's look into a 5-day stream. All right, 5-day stream. You can see that it's been more of an uptrend. Sorry, 1 day 5-minute stream. It looks like it's an uptrend, right? And this could be triggered by news, by company PR, or whatever it is. I've looked into the news for this company. I've seen that they have submitted a Form 8. Which I've read through it and it looks like it's actually good news. You can look it up. Basically, they have a common share of 0.59 for additional shares made, but that for me is good news, and it looks like the market did not react on it as much. It was 5.30, so that still happened in the aftermarket. Around 5.30, you can see it actually jumped. The stock jumped in there. Now, the aftermarket is very tricky, and what you need to realize that if you have level 2 really helps you in short-term holdings, and you get to see all the orders. And at times you can have something like 20 transactions that can change the entire price of the stock market in the aftermarket, and that's where you can see massive jumps. And I can show you here in a 1 month, 1 month, 1 hour. Person here that bought at 620. It could be just one person that bought at 620 and caused that high. It could be something as 5 people bought at 620, and then the next person, just the next order set was at 56 and just dropped the price so quickly. And that happens often. And something you got to be very careful of is pumping and dumping. And this is a very close term where a lot of people would pump the stocks just to inflate their holdings and then dump them after they reach an all-time high, and that's where you caught a dip. But what seems to be here, this is a strong company. So this is my disclaimer. It's my opinion. It's a company that has a lot of future. It works in the EV industry. What it looks like is that we're seeing unprecedented volumes, which is a really good thing. I see this one that it might have a pullback in the morning, but I see it having a green day on Monday. And that's how basically I do my DD. I look at different things and I try to assess them. Now, remember how I told you in the 1 month, 1 day interval that the 10 SMA was higher than the 30 EMA. When you look into it into more of a 1 hour interval, you can get to see that that has changed in the last day. And usually that's amazing. You can see the climb here, the green line, which is the 10 SMA, was above the 30 EMA, and that kind of caused an uptrend. Over here, you can see a strong resemblance of this. You can see a strong MACD. In terms of average directional index, in the last day, it showed a really positive between 25 and 45. Right now, it's 53, which is considered a little bit too dangerous in terms of looking into the directional index. So what might happen, what that indicator is telling us, is that it might see a pullback, but it's going to bounce back. That's basically my DD overall. Just a disclaimer, I haven't put out any orders yet on this stock, but if I see a pullback in the early day, I'm definitely going to be putting a bit of money on this one. Thank you and have a good day. And as always, just put in the comments whatever stock you want me to DD next, and I'll be very happy to put my next video on it. Thanks. Drop a like and subscribe.